Now, they have limiting beliefs for whatever reason it is to get in front of a camera. And we talked about it this morning. It's not about, as an entrepreneur, it's not about how you feel. It's about what you have to do.
And we're live. Hello, Tom Larecchia here with a very special edition of the New Theory Podcast. I got a return guest, Steve Griggsy, in the house of Steve Griggs Design. Welcome back to the New Theory Podcast. How you doing today?
Good to be here. We like the Straight Dirt Podcast too, in congruent with the New Theory Podcast.
That's right. We're merging them up today.
Love the new studio.
And
Love
then,
it.
And then we got our man, Marshall Wilkonson. He's a second generation contractor, and he's a contractor's contractor, meaning he shows guys that are a little old school and bringing them up into the kind of the new century, if you will. Marshall's piping in from West Palm Beach. Marshall, welcome to the New Theory Podcast. How you doing today, man?
Doing great. Good to see you guys. Wish I was there with you.
Well, before we go, we said we have two objectives of the call. The first is we got to find out Marshall's tailor. And then number two, if he had to go with a Davidoff, Davidoff, I think it's Geneva company out of London, who probably sources from non-Cuban, or a Cuban Cohiba. So we'll get those questions answered today, which are very important. But let's get down to business. So let's start off with Steve. So Steve, you've been on a few times. You're a recurring guest. Marshall preaches this every day. People make a lot of mistakes, and they really choose the wrong contractor. Your backyards, let's be candid, 100K, 200K, 400K, some do 700K. It's a serious investment for a home buyer. Anybody who wants a resort in their backyard, as I call it. Now, what are some of the things that you can share today with the audience that if you're looking to make that investment, what do you really need to know, right? Price, scope. I want you to kind of break that down as we start off.
So I asked Marshall to be on here because we have a coaching program. He's my consultant, my mentor.
Nice.
I've been with him every day for the last 4 years. He
Oh,
has
wow.
a call every freaking morning at 8 a.m.
Nice.
And don't be late. Don't miss it. And then we have another school, a sales school on Tuesday night and a contractor school on Wednesday night.
Nice.
So the commitment is there for everybody. So I just want to shout out to him.
Yeah.
Super, super proud of him.
We'll put a link below.
Yeah, put a link below, man. The hardest working guy in the business to show up every day on a call at 8 a.m. Shout out to him on that. Okay. So you asked me a question on what goes into a backyard and why do people. I'm finding, Tom, that a lot of people, they just don't know the outdoor space. They're not contractors. They're not supposed to be. They're either doctors, lawyers, financial people, and they don't know construction. They don't know anything. So when somebody comes to their house and gives them a proposal, only thing that's on the proposal is scope and price.
Correct.
That's why we preach in the mentorship program. I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm just trying to tell you that the pre-construction agreement and having a good design with good details will give you an accurate price. So I like to ask the clients, do you want to know what this is going to cost you in the middle of the project or before we start? 99.9% they're going to say, oh, of course, before. So that's why we need a good design and a good construction program to get you to that promised land. That's really what it comes down to.
So Marshall, so let's say, I'm in New Jersey, you got a, $1.2 million house. Steve comes along, quotes me at like 250. I'm happy, has a pool, has some niceties to it. I look at it this way, right? Whether you're like kind of a self-made guy, which I guess I am, and versus a professional who's a high-income earner. Either way, you got to see value. I want to first ask you, what does it do to a value of a home when you put it in a Steve Griggs backyard?
Well, it's going to increase the value of the home tremendously, at least a standard deviation greater than the actual construction value, as long as what is done isn't so hyper-personal. Sometimes there is a mistake. You can end up over-investing and creating something that is so hyper-personal to you that it doesn't translate to buyers in a resale market. And then you kind of end up in a tough spot, maybe not making the return that you expected. That's why it's very important for the contractor to be transparent and communicate with the homeowner. What are your plans? So you plan on, is this a forever home? Do you plan on selling the house? What are the plans? You're going to hand this house down because they're making a significant investment, and we have the duty of responsibility as a contractor to help them see the investment that they're making so they can make the best decision for themselves. We don't want to lead them down a path just because we're looking for a project. You know, we are all, not only are we the person that's constructing the project, but we're also an advisor.
Yeah. So I like the consultative approach. And I literally ask Steve this question every time, and I'm a numbers guy. So you bring up a good point on it being accretive by adding the backyard. Obviously there's generalities, but on an average, is it, 1.2 to the dollar that I put in the backyard on value? Is it 1 to 1.1? Is it 1.5? Does it vary by geography? Can you give a rough average of what people could expect if done correctly?
Yeah, I mean, if you go with a Steve Griggs design, you go to Steve Griggs design and in the manner of which he performs his work, I would say you're gonna not only get the investment back, but probably 20 points on it.
I like that.
20 points, Marshall. When you're set up where you are and you're going to relocate down in Palm Beach, you got to let me come down and put a big MW at the bottom of your pool and mosaic tile from our man, Danilo Bonito, the Italian. Shout out to the Italian, Danilo Bonito.
Shout out to Danilo Bonazza. He's a good man. We're going to get him back on.
I just want to say, the reason why I come up with a number like that is that I've been doing this for a very long time. But if you could take a 5 to 10 year horizon on real estate after the improvements have been done, you look at what the growth of real estate is over a 5 or 10 year period. It's very easy. It's a conservative number to come up with that. The more capital improvement you put in a home, if you hold it between a 5 and a 10 year horizon, you're going to get 20 points on that investment. Now, you're not going to get 20 points if he does it and then you turn around and sell it tomorrow, because there will be some appreciation. Correct. But it's all about replacement value. So if we wait 10 years, if we do a $500,000 backyard now, and then we wait to do a $500,000 backyard 10 years from now, you have at least a 20% escalation in labor and material. So you've got to look at replacement value, because that's what gets factored into.
Maybe even higher now.
Maybe even higher. Yeah, I'm being conservative. Inflation. Yeah.
All right. So that part I get. Now, the other part is, and I'm going to speak for New Jersey, okay? And again, and Steve knows better than me, I think there's buckets of and I want to say guys and gals who pull the trigger on this. Some of them are kind of like regular guys like us who put together a few bucks. And like, how's that customer, Steve? How do you add value to that? I want to hear Marshall's standpoint, because it's like what got them here is like being a little stingy, grinding it out. And then all of a sudden, like, it's kind of a rich man's sport of getting a big backyard. So we saw the blue collar mentality, but we got a few bucks. How do you sell to that guy? And why should that guy pull the trigger in the backyard like Steve Griggs?
It's not really, doesn't come down to like the Joneses and flexing and all. It's really, you try to educate the client to say, listen, you're going to do this one time. You want to do it once and do it right. I put that in the book.
Yeah.
Don't cheap out. Don't get the cheapest price. We said this every time we come here. Homeowners are always looking to get over, especially in the Northeast. But you're going to pay for it several times over, right?
Yeah.
Hey, if you put it in a patio and it settles, they got to come back. You got to redo it. Do it once, do it right. Pay the premium and get the right job. Hire the right guy, man.
So if you're going to do it, make sure, because, a lot of people that grow up that way, like us, kind of scarcity mentality. But if you actually show them, hey, here's what we do, Marshall says it helps the value out, that all makes sense. So, Marshall, from your perspective, you being a second generation contractor, which is a very big deal. I have one in my family as well. A lot of the sons kind of got into it and they wanted to do something else. And I think the numbers are like 80% of second generation businesses fail. Why do second generation contractors fail, and why do they succeed? Give me kind of the both sides of the coin.
Well, that's a great question. At least from my perspective, I got into the business because I was groomed since as a little kid. I knew that this is what I was going to be doing. Plus I had an affinity for it. And, I'm also a daddy's boy. So I always wanted to make my father proud. And I wanted to, my temperament lended itself towards the business. Now, why they would fail is, remember, the fish rots at the head. So the reason why a business is going to fail is because of the leadership. And I'll just tell you from my experience, my father knew that and he preached it. And I wasn't able to get directly into the business when I went away and went to school and came back. He forced me to work for other contractors for many years. In fact, I was a vice president at another firm before I was even able to get into the family business. So because it all depends on the guy running the show. The fish rots at the head. So there's many reasons why it would fail. But the statistic truly is the second generation takes it to the next level and the third generation blows it.
Yeah, because I think it goes, the first generation makes it, the second protects it, and the third spends it. And generational wealth is not, again, I think overall, I think 60% of millionaires or produce generational wealth. 60% by the third generation go to zero. It's crazy. Wow. Think about, what is it, the Vanderbilts and many others. All right, so Steve, back to you. So you're doing a lot of social, you're doing a lot of different stuff. You're really investing a lot in education and educating your clients. If you had to produce one video and one video alone on education, what do people need to be educated on specifically about landscape architecture design? If you said, hey, you know what? Perry calls you up, you can only do one video. Marshall says you only do one video. What would that video be? One video. He's going to give us three, but give us one.
So it's funny because when you read everything to the clients,
correct,
and you try to go to the proposal and you talk about soils and you talk about this, I think you got to sum it up into one sentence for them, right? So basically what I tell them, I have a lot of little cliches that they say, listen, I do for your backyard what Spanx does for your hips, right?
I love that.
So, get that. You have to break it down to like simplicity terms. Like, I'll make your backyard so nice, the mosquitoes are going to RSVP to your next party. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what they understand. Like, they don't understand anything else.
Correct.
So it's funny that you talk about it because I had a call with Marshall yesterday. We was talking about the social, like, where's my head at?
Yeah.
You got the comedians out there.
Yeah.
You need to educate, entertain. So we're throwing around the coaching idea. I have 40 years in the business. I've been doing this in the toughest market in America, maybe in the world, New York. Yeah. Like, what is the value proposition that I can teach to other landscapers or other contractors? That's why we talked to Marshall. That's why I said, hey, you know what, Marshall? It'd be good to get on this podcast to throw around some ideas with this,
Yeah. So great answer. So Marshall. So again, I don't mean to generalize, but as a marketer, we have different client types that Steve's going to sell to, right? So I want to give you 3 client types and give me how you sell into them. Again, the self-made guy, that this is his kind of, or her kind of cherry on top. I kind of made it. I got the shore house. The kids are out of college. I made it, right? Living in, Shore Hills, New Jersey, that guy, right? Then give me the working professionals, like the doctor, lawyer, they're making, 1.8 combined. They don't have a lot of time. They don't know nothing about this stuff. They just know how to make money in their fields. And then the third is the generational wealther that, got daddy's and mommy's money, and that, just want something. There are 3 different customer types. How do you sell into those 3?
I'm so happy you asked that question because I wanted to circle back on that because you kind of asked Steve that a little bit earlier. The way you sell, if you're Steve, the way you sell, the way you sell those projects is dependent upon the person. So if let's just cherry pick the guy who you said is successful, has done well, and the kids are out of college.
Yeah.
Now that is going to be something where you're going to have to lay a heavy foundation of the logic, which is what we talked about. You're going to make 20 points on the money. What's the horizon of the hold? He's doing the math, and it's mathing. The math is mathing.
Correct.
And then you've got to make the connection to the emotional, which would be, in many cases, when they're at that point, being able to show off the friends, being able to have a resort in their backyard where him and his wife could spend, their retirement days, et cetera, and then be really proud of the place where the family comes and visits during the summer. The working professional, however, that argument does not hold as much water. The working professional that is married and has a 14-year-old daughter needs to do the project in the backyard so the kids come to their house, not having their kid at somebody else's house. So you can keep your eye on your kids by creating a resort-style backyard. You know exactly where your children are. You know exactly who they're hanging out with. This way you get them at the house. You could control that environment. You get everything that you want, plus the return on investment. The emotional pull is greater for the professional guy with kids in the house. The money pull, making money on the deal, making it rationalize in the math, and also saying, hey, man, look, players write checks. You
Got it.
sacrificed your whole life and you
Like
work.
that.
It's time for you to get what you want. And this
Yeah.
is the whole neighborhood. That is a different pitch. And that is for a guy who's got a lot of money and the kids aren't home. When the kids are home, the kids have got to be the pitch.
And then where does the generational wealth or the moneyed person, the lower piano crowd, silent kind of wealth, which one are they closer to? Or are they their own kind of beast?
Yeah, no, they're their own kind. The Lower Piana crowd and that I'm from Long Island, so that Southampton crowd, that's
Correct.
gonna be name brand stuff, and it's gonna be what the neighbors also have. So it's gonna be depending upon the contractor being a known celebritized person that has worked on neighbors' backyards, and that neighbor is gonna want that guy. Because that's where they make their connection.
Yeah.
Oh, you use Steve?
Yeah.
Oh, I also
You ever-
use
I mean,
Steve too.
Yeah, I brought my 14-year-old to a concert in Vegas not long ago, and like the look on his face, like celebrity is just transcends all, right? Like if we're here and The Rock walked in, I would probably shart my pants, right? Like, but if anybody else walked in, like Jesus maybe, right? Like, but what I'm getting at is celebrity is key, and by creating celebrity, and you, like as a marketer, you tell people to create celebrity, and they get like weird about it. No, you can be the local yokel mayor of this space, and you can really win locally, and there's a form of celebrity in that. So Steve, okay, so Marshall, you broke that down. I really like that a lot. Now, Steve, what about, despite some of the challenges, and Steve's come a long way. He's doing a great social program. Shout out to Nick Cass, millions of followers online in Perry, good guys. Like you put together a nice program. You're putting together, and probably made some of it's from Marshall, some of it's from them, some of it's your own. What do you say to the guy or gal who is like us, but is still like not even on Facebook, who's still like, referral based, not even have a website? I would say 40% of contractors don't even have websites, which is fucking insane. But talk to that person.
We speak about this freaking every day, right, Marshall? Every day. Get in front of the camera, guys.
Yep.
He yells at the guys every day for yelling for nothing. So I have to step in and say, guys, I am the oldest guy in this freaking group. I'm going to be 65. I'm still freaking swinging the bat. Okay,
Yep.
I'm trying. I don't even know what. Trust me, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, just post it and tag me. I don't even know what that is. I just freaking hit record and just keep swinging the bat. I mean,
He calls it the Facebook still. No, I'm just kidding.
just keep. And for the guys that are out there, like I hear it too. Oh, I don't do Facebook. I don't do emails. It's 2020 freaking 4. Going to
Yeah.
be 25. If you want to be in this business, be an entrepreneur, step the F up and quit your whining and show up and do what you have to do. We spoke about it today about sacrificing, and we just got off the call on the way here.
Yeah.
Sacrificing. In order to, you got to sacrifice.
You gotta do it.
You got to sacrifice. Just do the shit and stop whining.
So Marshall, a question for you, and we don't need to get like profound, lay down and get the tissues out. But a lot of these guys behind the scenes are not as tough as they act, especially the contractors. And a lot of them have imposter syndrome. So a lot of them are like, I don't know if I can go in front of the camera. Do I have the right to be in front of the camera? Do I deserve to be? We got a $3 million business, and you can't just do a reel. Do you see guys and gals again having imposter syndrome? And if so, how do you get them over it?
Massively, massively. When you talked about celebrity, it really all celebrity is the person that gets the attention in the space. And so
Yes.
I first kind of try to redefine that, right? Because we throw that word around, but and then in their mind they think of it a celebrity like a movie star, and it's really not that. It's the Nicolak Paver guy. It's the person who gets the attention in the space. That's what we mean by celebritization. Now, they have limiting beliefs for whatever reason it is to get in front of a camera. And we talked about it this morning. It's not about, as an entrepreneur, it's not about how you feel. It's about what you have to do. And so, you got to get them to see that business is about sacrifice, and whatever that limiting belief is that you have, we've got to crack it, because this is a necessary evil that needs to be done. You got to get in front of the camera, and you've got to get the attention. That's the economy that we live in. The other issue is with contractors, which is overseen. It's an oversight. Is that a guy's been in the field 25 years as a journeyman electrician, and then he's in business now for 5 years, but he's only a 5-year-old in entrepreneurship. He's a 25-year-old as a journeyman electrician. So you also, with these guys, you've got to cultivate them. At least I do in my program, because you might have been a 25-year journeyman electrician, but for 25 years, you've been in the field and not in the office.
Yeah.
So now you're in the office for 2 years. You're still a 2-year-old. It's not like you've been an entrepreneur for 25 years like Steve.
Yeah.
At his age now, he gets it. I'm going to get in front of the camera and let's rock and roll. They have to build their entrepreneurship muscles. And so the way I do it is by constant reinforcement, positive reinforcement, and truly getting them to understand that this game is not about how you feel. It's about what you have to
Yeah.
do.
So we're gonna twist Steve's arm off camera. I'm trying to get Steve to start his own like sub consulting from you, not compete, but in terms of like his space, because we know he can win and we know he could expound.
Yeah, we spoke.
Yeah,
yesterday.
and we know we could expound some great knowledge. Why don't and like I have an MBA. I'm supposed to be a smart guy. I didn't invest in like personal career growth outside of my education until recently. I went down to Patrick Bet-David's West Palm Beach event. I took the whole team. We went to the beautiful house on Flagler. We lost the visual on you. Yeah. So we were on Flagler. We had a great time. Cost me like 10 grand. But you know what? My team afterwards are skyrocketing. We hit our goals 5 months in a row. We're about to hit the 6 company record. So we're doing great. But like in your space, now granted, you have a different model, but I'm guessing it's hard to get contractors to invest in their own personal career division. God forbid they send Nancy to your program. How do guys get over that?
It's very difficult. It's like a root canal. I tell people the hardest thing to do is to get a contractor to spend money on getting better at something.
Every day, I
love
it, man.
And I just kick myself. It's like, man, the reason why I do this is because I believe that if you're a consultant, that you have no right mentoring and consulting people in things you know nothing about. Like I love Patrick Bet-David, but he sold an insurance company. So I don't know why any contractor in the world would ever go to one of his events. He's not a contractor. He's an insurance.
Yeah. Good point. Good point.
Grant Cardone's a car salesman. So, but these guys, they understand and they don't care. They go, I don't care. There's business principles. I'm going to teach it to everybody. And that's where it's where I differ with all these guys. I don't believe.
Well,
It's a good, real quick, Marshall, it's a good point because my right-hand guy, Mike, we went there and he enjoyed it. But he goes, you know what? I want to go to a digital marketing and media conference and know from people that are doing it, not from. So I think you're right. I think those guys are good for the macro. You want to write off a trip. I brought my wife. There's a birth. I get that. But if you want something kind of real deal, your type program, I think hopefully Steve sets something up. Okay, so I am. I'm more of a. It's funny because things are changing so much. I guess I'm old school now. I'm still like kind of a website guy, SEO guy. You got to do some PPC. People are still clicking that. I'm getting a lot into AI. That's why I'm a little more forward thinking. We'll get into AI in a second. How do you balance the expenditure on, hey, what should I spend on social? What should I do ads on? What should I do for SEO? What's your recommended marketing mix for that?
That's a great question. First of all, I believe that the marketing budget should be the largest budget in a business. Marketing precedes sales 100%, especially in the days that we live in today. And then I'd take that marketing budget and then I would weight it on an average. So you have to deploy your dollars where you get the most juice for the squeeze. So if we know that we're in a hyper competitive keyword PPC environment, but maybe we're really good on camera and we have an organic social media following, then I'd much rather be weighting a greater average of the dollars towards where I'm going to get the juice per the squeeze. So I don't think there's a hard and fast rule. I think it depends on where the results are coming from. So let's take, for example, what happened with Steve. Steve has a video that has, 3 or 4 million views on it. Let's say from that video, you could see that you had an increase of 10 or 15,000 followers over a period of time. And then now that the social media presence is growing and you look at your website and you see that there's an increase in traffic and the analytics show that the traffic is coming from Instagram, or you have an ebook funnel like we created for Steve, and that ebook is moving pretty well, and we know that it's coming from social, well, then I'm gonna allocate a larger set of my marketing budget towards social. Because you have to keep the main thing. Wherever we're winning, we want to double down and add wood to that fire. We don't want to take a marketing budget and just levelize it and put it in all tentacles of the octopus. You've got to weight it because some things are not worth
What? I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I know it varies, but let's say in Steve's business, landscape architecture, what percentage should be spent on outbound marketing and marketing?
What percentage of
Percentage
net?
of revenue.
Yeah. So because remember, as a
Of gross. You're gross. You're planning your budget out. You know, again, you know, contractors is referrals.
can't be on gross.
Okay, on the net, that's fair.
Going to be on net. Yeah, it's going to be on net, and I would, yeah, it's going to be on net. So after, because I'm answering your question here, because after we cover our overhead expenses, jobs paid for, materials are paid for, subs are paid, overhead expenses are covered, and then there's money in the kitty for payroll for, let's say, 3 months, let's just say. Then whatever's left over,
Yeah.
contractors take owner distributions. They shouldn't. They should cut that in half. 50% of that has to go to the marketing budget, as do at least 50% of that.
So I'm as a numbers guy, I'm guessing Steve or anybody does a project. I think you want what, like a 70% gross margin, right? On a project like that, gross, not net. Trust me, if it's net margin, we would be on a private play right now. But 70% gross margin sound about right?
No way.
Ish.
Little high.
No, hell no. You're
No
talking
way.
in contracting. Our on the best days of our life, our gross margin's 30 points.
Fuck me. How do you guys
Yeah.
make money? Okay, so 30 points. So then you
hard,
need
man.
to have so then you need to have lower overhead. You need to have lower overhead. So you're probably talking about, I don't know, 4 or 5% of net revenue should go towards marketing. If I'm dumbing that down.
That's exactly right. Because when it's all said and done at the end of the year, you're healthy if you're running between an 8 and 11% net margin. And so let's say you're running an 8% net margin. Well, then four points has got to go to marketing.
It's like a restaurant, kind of. Just do it off the top, grow the top line, and hope it sinks to the bottom.
Exactly correct.
all right,
That's
so
exactly
Steve-
what this business is. Grow the top line as much as you can.
All right, so Steve, so in your own words, what are some of the principles, whether it be from Marshall or just your own experience, have you learned that you could recommend, they could share with other business owners, whether they're in the home services space, architecture space, or, you know, in their career that they're looking to step it up? What's like a core kind of tenet that you learned from Marshall in this program, or something you learned elsewhere?
Spend the money.
Yeah.
Spend the money on self-improvement. Spend the money on a good consultant. Spend the money on good people. You can't grow your own. I mean, this is what you try to, you just grow. You need people. Yeah, look at everybody. You need people to grow your business.
Yeah.
Contractors are afraid, right? They're afraid. They're just afraid people. Like we talked about limiting beliefs and growing up. I don't know. They're just a weird, strange bunch, man. They think they can do everything themselves.
Interesting. Yeah, because like limiting beliefs come in, and if you have limiting beliefs, you know, you're literally going to limit your opportunity when you limit your beliefs.
Absolutely.
Marshall, we'll be wrapping up soon. What's kind of one of your kind of core tenets of advice if somebody's watching for the first time and is considering, hey, should I give this guy a chance? What are some of the core tenets that you offer that you believe in?
There's quite a few. It's almost like a golf swing where you've got all these different principles that you've got to put together and get them clicking at once, really, to have a successful contracting company. You know, for people that are hearing me for the first time and kind of asking, you know, themselves, who is this guy? You know, I usually say, you know, when was the last $2.5 billion in construction you done?
Good point.
That's my resume, right? So I took the business from 20 million to 100 million in 6 years. I've done $2.5 billion in construction.
Damn.
I played in the big boy game, union.
Yeah.
So, but you know, I just want to clarify here, just to add to what Steve was saying. I understand where the fear comes from because it's inherent in the business. The business becomes adversarial. And the reason why it becomes adversarial is because the preparation in the beginning of the job isn't done diligently. And so estimates and budgets get broken very quickly and easily on projects. And then when you're working in the private sector in people's homes, homeowners take advantage of the contractor. They want them to do stuff for free. If you do one thing for free for them, they're going to ask you to do 10 things for free. They're going to put you out on payment. And that is just the reality of things. And because that's the reality of a contractor every day, he's very tight with his cash. And I understand it. So, you know, it's one of these things where I can't just say, hey, man, spend the money, man up. you know, you need to know, you don't know what you don't know. All of that is true, but I do understand where they're coming from. It's baked into the nature of the business.
All right. Now we're going to wrap up. So a few kind of 2-minute offense questions for you, and I'll throw a few at Steve too. So, okay, suits made to order, custom fit, off the rack, a specific store. What cloth are we using? Go.
You talking to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a suit. This is a custom suit. My clothes are custom.
Yes.
They're made by a guy named Terry Corbett, New York.
Okay.
Torbert's good guy, Terry. Yeah.
Terry Corbett. This is all Laura Piana. All the fabric
Nice.
and all my suits and my clothes from him are Laura Piana.
So when I've been out with Marshall in New York City.
Yeah.
You want to roll with him?
Oh, I was
wanna
hoping.
roll with
I was
him.
hoping he was coming in the studio. I was going to bring the bourbon for breakfast. All right. So what's our pour? What are we drinking?
You know what? I'm not much. Honestly, I'm not much of a drinker. Not
Okay.
anymore. But I will imbibe occasionally, and when I do, it's if I'm having a cigar, it's typically Ron Zacapa rum. I drink rum with cigars.
Nice.
I drink scotch with cigars.
That's who's huge into rum, Danilo. He was
Yeah.
telling me. He's like a worldwide. Is that being the Mosaic guy? He's like a rum expert. We gotta connect these guys.
He's like a rum expert.
yeah, we gotta connect.
He like
these
bottles
guys.
his own rum. And
I don't want to say too much because I don't know what I could share or not. But I'll tell you offline.
He showed me the picture. It's crazy.
like the rum guy.
He's
Yeah.
like the rum guy.
Yeah. Lastly, cigars. Give me your backyard smoke, pensive. Get away from the wife, cigar,
Hey, Mary,
and then give me like the celebration when we're at the Carnegie Club in Manhattan.
Okay, well, so I smoke Davidoff cigars, almost mainly. I smoke the Churchill, and then I smoke the late hour. So I open up with the Churchill, the regular Churchill, and then I finish with I could smoke 5 cigars at a sit down. So the rest is
Damn.
For anybody watching, it's $40, like on the low end for a Davidoff. That's the starting point.
By the way, to get him on this podcast, I appreciate it because
life is too short to smoke a bad cigar, boys.
to get him one-on-one, big
That is
bucks.
true. I was actually at a Davidoff in West Palm. I was very disappointed because I'm a cigar guy, and I probably got the wrong one. But I said, "Hey, cigars in West Palm." We went to what's that furniture store? That BH, that Restoration Hardware for dinner. My wife's birthday. I wanted to go grab some nice sticks. We Googled this really nice lounge, and we got there. It was terrible.
No. Listen, when you're in the area, give me a shout. I'm in Palm Beach.
Yeah.
That's way to
In Palm
roll.
Beach on Worth, there's only one place to go, and that's Churchill's.
Okay. Because I would have got there, and I was in a good mood. I was, had a few drinks. I was celebrating the PBD event, and I got like and the other part too was interesting is I got like everybody Davidoffs, and they're not really smokers. And like I don't think they liked it. I'm sitting there, I'm like, motherfucker, I'd rather smoke all 4 myself. So listen, Marshall, how can we find you?
You find me everywhere. Marshall Wilkonson. Pop me in Google. You can find me on Instagram, all social media, YouTube, Marshall Wilkonson.
Love it. And then we'll get you in the studio when you're in town. Steve, obviously, we'll put some links below for you as well. But how can we find you, Steve?
At Steve Griggs Design. I'm a big Instagram guy now. I'm just shooting and pointing and just keep doing it.
I love it. Another banger. Thanks, guys.
Good one, guys. Thank you, Marshall.
Good seeing you guys.